If you want to understand this week, understand last week. I'm Armand Diaz with your forecast for the week of December 16th, 2019. And indeed, last week was a good model for this week. Things are shifted a little bit in terms of priorities, but other than that, you've got a same kind of energy going on. If you recall last week, we had the sort of frenetic, hyper-energetic approach of the Gemini full moon, opposite the Sagittarius sun. High energy, bubbly, but an undercurrent of Capricornian seriousness as Venus, well, there's a lot of Capricornian seriousness, but as Venus met with both Saturn and Pluto, we had a real change point, a real beginning and end of the cycle. The question last week is, are you in or are you out? Were you in or were you out was the question last week. Well, okay, so we look at, on the collective level, a lot of stuff happened over the course of the last week. We had, for example, the U.S. Congress approving of President Trump's renegotiated North American Free Trade Agreement. We had the delivering of the articles of impeachment against President Trump. We had a preliminary, apparently, but it's a little bit vague, trade deal between the U.S. and China. And I think most dramatically, we had the vote in the UK, which was a resounding victory for the Conservatives and really is something that will push Brexit forward with all of the various consequences that could happen there. So on the collective level, are you in or are you out? I mean, this was the deal. I mean, people came to a conclusion. Things that were hanging up in the air for a long time reached a conclusion last week, or they reached a turning point at the very least. In our personal lives as well, it seems that that's what was happening. I saw a lot of people who maybe as we're coming down to the end of the year at work, are realizing what the potential benefits and what the potential limitations of their career path are. That was very typical over the course of the last week. I think that there was a real sense of deadline, that Capricornian energy. It was below the surface in a way, but it was really the decisive energy. That was last week. Let's talk about this week. This week, we have a similar kind of theme, although here Capricorn is not under the surface. Here the Capricornian energy is the dominant energy. It's the obvious energy. That's the shift. But we have a great deal of, at various times, we have a great deal of that fiery kind of impulsive energy that will certainly, it'll keep things lively. So we start the week on Monday with the moon in Leo. It's making more or less harmonious aspects. A square to Mars in Scorpio is not to be underestimated, but it's a good, solid time for, I would say, if you can get out Monday night and have a little bit of fun, it should be a pretty good time at work. It's great for creative projects and things like that. So I would kind of look towards Monday as being one of your highlight days of the week. Find an outlet for your energy too. The moon is in the gibbous phase. It's waning, but it's still, it's still there with enough energy to get things done. So that's good. Now on Tuesday, Wednesday, we're going into the moon in Virgo. It's the last quarter moon. And that actually that's Tuesday and Wednesday. And last quarter moon in Virgo is really cleaning up time. I know we're not at the end of the year yet. I don't want to rush things. We still have 2 weeks to go. A lot of people are off the last week, or things go a little bit lighter in the last week of the year. This is a good time to sort of clean up matters, get things done as much as you can, Tuesday and Wednesday. And when I say Tuesday and Wednesday, I really kind of mean earlier the better. Tuesday is better than Wednesday. Wednesday, get things done as soon as possible. Again, great for, any bookkeeping, inventory kind of stuff that you have to do. Good for cleaning up for the holidays. If you're making preparations and things like that, it would be a wonderful time to do some cleanup work. We'll do a little bit of organizing. Maybe you can sort of straighten some stuff out, that would be good. That kind of thing on Tuesday into Wednesday. Now, one of the things that we have going on at this point in time also, is Venus going through the very last degrees of Capricorn. And Venus going through the end of Capricorn has an interesting kind of energy in that it really favors more formal kinds of activities. So, you know, if there's a work party for something like the holiday party or something like that, it would be good. If you're having meetings and so on, again, that very serious deadline, are you in, are you out type of thing. After Thursday, Friday, and beyond, Venus will be in Aquarius, which is great for, you know, larger group activities. And we head to about 3 weeks of a period where socialization is liable to be more on the collective level, more, a little bit more open, a little bit more freewheeling, a little bit more, I don't want to say fun, because, you know, everything is fun. You should be having fun the whole time. But a little bit more of a social kind of thing, a little bit more of, you know, get out and do some stuff when Venus goes into Aquarius and stays there for a while. All right. The other thing that is happening, though, on Thursday, and this is really powerful Wednesday and Thursday, and it sort of trails off on Friday, is that Mercury in Sagittarius squares Neptune. Now, if Mercury retrograde is an issue, and it is, oh God, I'm still smarting from that retrograde. It was just, oh. Anyways, if Mercury retrograde is an issue, Mercury square Neptune is worst. Mercury square Neptune, we have the verbal principle, we have the ability to talk our way around things, and we have Neptune, which can just go with an idea. It doesn't really need to be grounded in reality at all. Now, with Mercury in Sagittarius, where, you know, beliefs are the top thing, and what my opinion is and what I feel is the right thing is the basis, we really have some potential for polarization. Again, I know polarization is pretty much the status quo at this point in time, but highly polarized kind of energy where, again, you know, the facts don't really matter all that much. You know, if you can get your megaphone and just go keep shouting what you believe, that seems like it's good enough. So on the collective level, lots of hyperbole, you know, who knows, the fact checkers will be overworked. On a personal level, though, got to be real careful. You know, this is not a good time to make a major purchase. This is not a good time to sign a contract. This is not a good time to commit to anything, because it's liable to sound very good, but really be disastrous. On the other hand, some things are liable to sound absolutely awful, but, you know, they could eventually be massaged into something that would be more practical. The sun is at the end of Sagittarius. Mercury is squaring Neptune from Sagittarius. It is not a clear energy. It's sort of, you know, the last quarter moon is always a time of sort of making decisions and seeing where you're going and things. And that's why you want to get that sort of stuff done Monday, Tuesday, because you want to be away from this aspect that is so powerful on Thursday. But, you know, it builds Wednesday, it peaks Thursday, and then it trails off on Friday. So you want to get those decisions done as early in the week as possible. This Neptune-Mercury aspect, it is wonderful for meditation. It is wonderful for connecting with creativity. It is, I mean, you know, in Sagittarius, you know, you go off on a philosophical bent, you know, tune into Gaia TV and watch everything that they have, you know, surf around on YouTube, listen to great music, whatever you want to do it. You don't want to try to take things too seriously at this point in time, especially Thursday. Now, the odd thing is that also on Thursday, we have Mars sextile Saturn, and that would, you know, if it wasn't for the whole Mercury thing, it would be a wonderful time to get things done. It's a very active kind of energy. Mars is in Scorpio and is aspecting Saturn in Capricorn, and Capricorn is one of Mars's favorite signs, and it's Saturn's home sign. So that energy which would otherwise be so useful, it actually is strongest on Wednesday. And you can get some juice out of it on Wednesday and preferably on Tuesday when the aspect is building. Good time for action, but not a good time for decisions about action. So, even through Thursday, if you're 100% sure and you've made that decision before, go right ahead. But it's not a time for making decisions Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, although, could definitely be a time for action. Maybe Monday, Tuesday for decisions. Now, it's a little confusing, but that's Mercury, Neptune. Early in the week, decisions, action, back off. Now, Friday would probably be a pretty good time to, go out and have some fun. We have the moon is in Libra, which means it's going to square Saturn. There could be a little bit of that Libra thing that's happening lately with the moon square Saturn and Pluto, which is, you're free to go, but you kind of don't exactly want to, or you're still thinking about work. There's always a little bit of a drag, as it were. You're maybe thinking about responsibilities, and it's a little hard to let go. It's just a possibility there. As we get to the weekend, we have monumentally, of course, on the 21st, we have the winter solstice. Now, if you're down in Australia, if you're below the equator in Africa or South America, I understand it's not the winter solstice, it's the summer solstice. But anyways, it's the solstice, it's the Capricorn solstice. And for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, it's the turnaround point where the sun starts to grow up in the sky. Instead of seeping down towards the southern horizon and just barely making an appearance for a couple of hours a day, starts to grow. The days start growing in length. I got to say, right around now, we've been having the sunset before 4:30 in the afternoon. It's early. It's early. But by 8 o'clock, it's been dark for 4 hours. Not preferable to my Leo self. But things start to change as we get past the solstice. The other thing for the weekend is that Venus, now in Aquarius, will square Uranus. Now, they are in each other's signs. Uranus is in Taurus, Venus is in Aquarius. So they're actually getting along much better than they otherwise would. Not that it's a particularly difficult aspect, but here's the thing. You want to mix it up a little bit. You want to change things around. Same old will not work particularly well with this aspect in place. This is not a status quo kind of aspect. This is the sort of aspect that really demands that you change things around a little bit. It could be you just going out and socializing and just doing something a little different. You take, your group is going someplace different. If you're with a partner, it could be something that, let's mix it up a little bit. Let's try something different. It doesn't have to be that Saturday night is, pizza and movies. I don't know whatever. You could change things around a little bit. You might be willing to try something or someone new. There could just be a little bit of a change going on, a little bit of a sense of things, they need to shift. You don't want to be in a rut when it comes to socializing. You don't want to be in a rut when it comes to relationship. Why would you want to be in a rut when it comes to anything for that matter? So use this as an opportunity to explore your freedom, try things differently, creatively. Very creative aspect opens up all kinds of possibilities for either creating things that are new and different, or alternatively just simply going out and consuming something a little different. You don't have to, if you're used to going to rock concerts, you can stop by and take in some classical music, or vice versa, whatever. Just shake it up a little bit, change it up. I would say don't rely too much on static plans. The moon is going to be in Scorpio towards the back half of the weekend, though, and that can be a little bit contracted, a little bit less willing to make changes. I don't really feel with the aspects that are present through the weekend that it's going to be such a problem, though. We also have, just goes on and on. We also have Mars sextile Pluto. And again, this is a real action kind of aspect. So as we get through Saturday, Sunday, and go forward from there, this is a time when, if you're sure about something, then you go forward with it. It's another action period. So although later on Wednesday through early on Friday come across as being times when you don't want to make decisions, it's a very active week. It's a very good week for action. It's a very good week for getting things done. Take a little holiday towards the end of the work week, but after that, it's a pretty good forward-leaning kind of week. The moon is waning. We are heading towards an eclipse. That means that there's going to be an extra degree of intensity. The waning moon, usually you say, well, the energy is waning. But in this particular case, because we're heading into an eclipse, we feel a little extra power sort of simmering under the surface there. Be aware of it, that it's a feeling that probably is just a feeling. But, it may be a little harder to be, let's say, 100% relaxed and cozy about things this week. Anyways, that brings us past the winter solstice. It brings us into the beginning of the growth of the light in the northern hemisphere. I don't want to be accused of being hemispherocentric or anything. It's a major turning point. It's a very active time. Don't sit around and let it go past. Enjoy it, make the most of it, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.